Thanks, Amanda and Ashley, for inviting me to this group. My name is Lori Klivak, and I am the senior director for the Center for Healthy Aging at InterFaith Works. Um, I was really, grateful for the opportunity. I told Amanda and Ashley that anywhere anyone wants to hear me talk about our work, the work that we do, that I'll show up, right? But when we were preparing for this conversation, I said, I got to be honest with you, I'm not a data person, right? But data plays a really important role in us understanding, kind of what's happening in our community and where we should be kind of steering our boat to make sure that we're serving the greatest need. So we look for data that's really actionable, that we can really kind of wrap our heads around, that's kind of packaged way that doesn't require us to run pivot tables or do chi-squares or any of that kind of stuff. We need data that is really allows us to kind of grasp some big pictures, some medium pictures, some nitty gritty where we need it, and then kind of move forward with our programming and operations. And we thought it could be an interesting presentation. First of all, like I said, I have a message to share, and any platform that I can stand on and offer that message, I'll take. But also for you all to see how an organization like Interfaith Works, that is a human services organization, in a relatively, I wouldn't say small, maybe kind of medium size. We're about 70 employees. What's kind of useful for us when we're looking at data and how we tell our story and how we make decisions about our programming. So I'm going to approach this as if you are any other group that I'm presenting to, which means I'm going to ask you questions and I'm going to ask you to participate and wrap your heads around some of the big picture issues around aging and ageism that we are facing as a community, and also trying to help people to navigate through their lifespan. So buckle up, because you got to talk. and they're using 65 as the benchmark for older adult.
So thank you.
Yeah. And Amanda and Ashley had asked me to prepare the sources, so I do have a document, that lets you know where this data comes from. I don't have it in my slides, but I have it in a Word document that I'll share later. So to meet this need and to make our community even more age-friendly, InterFaith Works specifically has 6 different program areas. We have 2 programs that are volunteer-based programs. We match, so through the Senior Companion Program and the One-to-One program, we recruit volunteers and place them as companions and friendly visitors with other older adults who are isolated or at risk of isolation. Our senior companions go into people's homes to provide companionship 10 hours or more a week. And our one-to-one program recruits volunteers to go into nursing homes to spark joy and social connection. Our Aging Services for New Americans program provides services specifically to older refugees and immigrants, things like age-friendly English classes, case management services, support for naturalization and citizenship, health and wellness classes, and so forth. We have a digital inclusion program. We learned very quickly in the pandemic that we needed to be in touch with all of our volunteers who were providing services on our behalf, and we needed to educate them on how to skill them up for using Zoom and email. And we learned that lots of other older adults in the community wanted to increase their skills as well. So we have a whole program to help older adults improve their skills and get access to technology and broadband. We have a neighborhood advisor who provides information and assistance to older adults to help them learn about services and programs and benefits that they qualify for in the community. I call her our walking Google. The information gap can be quite a challenge for older adults wanting to learn about what's out there, what they qualify for. So much information is now online. But they really do prefer to get information from a known and trusted person that they can talk to. So that's the role our neighborhood advisor fills. And then we also convene the Greater Syracuse Aging Services Coalition, which works to, in collaboration with community members and aging services providers and other folks across the community to promote initiatives that support racial equity and economic justice for older adults. Okay, so here is the group participation part. We think that one of the best ways that we can prepare for our aging is by talking about it. We also like to point out that aging happens from the moment you are born. It is not something that happens when you hit 65. We are all aging, and healthy aging happens across the lifespan. And even if that doesn't resonate with you, I strongly suspect that someone that you care very much about, perhaps someone you live with, perhaps someone who lives near you, a family member, is facing some challenges as they age too. So we think it's important for everyone to be talking about these issues. So my first question to the group is, what does healthy aging mean to you? And I'm comfortable with you guys just unmuting yourself and hopping on and sharing if you would like to.
I think it means maintaining a lifestyle of your own choice for as long as possible.
So the dignity of choice there.
Thank you. That is a much better way of putting it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I had a great uncle who skied into his 80s, and to me that is like the definition of healthy aging, being able to do the activities you loved when you were younger, even though your body is getting older.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share what healthy aging means to you?
Yeah, I would agree with that, with maintaining the activities and the everyday lifestyle, shopping for yourself, driving, just being able to continue in your lifestyle the way you did before.
And I think it also means more than just, trying to cope with the negative changes of getting older. I think healthy aging to me would also incorporate just being aware of taking care of your own body at any stage of life to keep it functioning, and your mind as well, mind and body functioning well. And that can be something that, as you say, you're aging from the moment you're born. So uh, a bit more of a inclusive, positive thing there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to me, this also includes being financially healthy. So I
Mm.
know you and I have spoken about how the aging, and you talked about it just now, that the aging starts when you are born. And so when you, to me, like a piece of healthy aging financially is like having the information you need in your 20s to make sure that you're financially stable as you grow older and move from a variable income to a fixed income.
Yeah. I just did this presentation yesterday at the Nottingham Senior Living, and a few other things that those folks said there was a sense of purpose, right? Being able to stay active and have a purpose as you age. And another one that we hear often is staying socially connected with the people that matter to you, right? And finding ways to find joy as well. Okay, so hopefully, everyone's has a little bit of reflected on this a little bit. The next question is, what do you need to be able to age well?
Maybe this is just because of the group we're in, but I guess good information is I think what I would need, like knowing what strategies, whether they be health, financial, social, whatever, work, what ones don't.
Yeah, good information.
I also think that I would need my like social community to age well. So like maintaining those relationships isn't just about maintaining those relationships as you grow older. It's about getting support from advice from those around you who either have gone further down the aging process, or those who are at the same stage as you and are experiencing the same things as you. I think that outlet not only allows you to, have better skills towards aging, but also just cope with it.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share?
I think medical information is good too.
Mm.
I've noticed with relatives that if something happens, if they have any ache or pain or ailment, a lot of times the doctor just says, "Oh, that's because of aging." And it's kind of, I mean, and not to ignore that, there are things that
Yeah.
get older, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's sort of discounted. Like maybe that isn't just because it can be done or.
Hillary, I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
Oh, sorry. I know my mic is good, but yeah, I think sometimes when they attribute everything to aging, sometimes be something that could be helped or improved, and it's sort of discounted, like, oh, that's just because of aging.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about that in a minute. So that's good foreshadowing. So maybe with that, I'll move on to the next piece. So we're gonna talk about ageism next. Ageism is any bias, stereotype, or discrimination, how we feel, how we think, or how we act based on age. So ageism can happen to anyone at any age. It's not just something that happens to older adults. It can happen to younger adults as well. There we go. There's a few different forms of ageism. The first is internalized ageism. It's the stories that we tell ourselves about things that we can or can't do based on our age. So I'm too old to learn, do, or start that, or I'm too young to take that on, right? We often hear, I'm having a senior moment, right? I can't recall that word, but honestly, that could happen to any of us at any age where we just can't come up with that word. I think similarly, when we think about youth, we might say, oh, well, they're too young and inexperienced to understand, right? And then to Hillary's point, oh, that me, it's just getting older. I'm just getting older. We tell ourselves maybe I don't need to address that because it's probably just something that's happening to my body as I'm aging. Or the reverse, I guess I don't need to take care of that because I'm young, right? I'm kind of invincible, right? We have interpersonal ageism. So this is the ageism that happens between two people. This shows up in ways that we talk about each other or treat each other. Sometimes it can happen in the workplace. When we say, "Oh, George, he's too old to learn that new software," or maybe Samantha, she's too young to take on that new responsibility. We're not going to hire that person. George is in his 60s. He won't stick around. Or I don't think we're going to hire her because she's, even though her resume is fabulous, she just hasn't been doing this work long enough. And here I think is even more directly to Hillary's point, when a doctor says, of course your knee hurts, you're just getting older, right? And this is a really pernicious form of ageism because it prevents us from actually understanding, what is it, like what's actually happening to my body and what can I do to fix this, right? Yeah, maybe my knee is getting older, but that doesn't mean that I can't do something about it. And then there's institutional ageism. This is the way that ageism shows up in our policies, in our structures, in our institutions like government and law enforcement, schools, healthcare, the workplace, and so forth. Workplace, we see age discrimination structurally or institutionally in the workplace when places have mandatory retirement ages, or if employers ask for high school graduation dates on job applications. And also, workplace age discrimination laws are not as strong as other forms of discrimination law to protect people. It's not as strong of a protected class as other forms of age discrimination. Ageism shows up. Yeah, please.
I had a question about that. So I have not done research into this, but I have heard that age discrimination laws only apply the moniker of ageism to those that are 40 or above, so doesn't address ageism of younger people. Is that true?
I don't know, but I'm going to look into that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's so right, which is like an ageism on top of ageism, right?
Right. Indicating that ageism can only happen if you're older, not necessarily if you're younger.
Yeah. I'm going to look into that. Yeah. We'll find out. Ageism shows up in Medicare, in our healthcare system. In Medicare, Medicare is the primary form of healthcare that older adults receive. It's a subsidized or government owned health insurance program, and it doesn't cover what we call the head stuff. It doesn't cover vision, it doesn't cover hearing, it doesn't cover dental. So as if those things matter less as we're aging, it's not covered by that. We also saw a lot of ageism in our COVID policies and practices, practices that were implemented by good people who were trying to do the right things, but had the impact, the perhaps unintended consequences of isolating older adults at higher numbers than other people in the community, or policies that discriminated through standards of care, triage guidelines that scored older adults in ways that put them back at the back end of the priority line for care, because they had other compounding issues. So these are just some examples of how we see ageism show up in our institutions and in our structures. Okay, having wrapped your head a little bit around what is ageism and some of the ways that it shows up, I'm going to ask you all again to a little participatory moment here. What sorts of stereotypes do you think people have about people your age, and how might they or have they affected you?
So I definitely don't experience this as much anymore, but do still experience it sometimes. But particularly as a woman in tech, when I was younger, it was very much those around me would think things and say things like, oh, you're too young to be in this job, you don't have the experience, you got this job because because you're young and you're a woman and you're an inclusivity hire, and you can't do this because you haven't done it before, which people do things that they haven't done before all the time. So that's something I've definitely experienced in the workplace.
Something I've experienced when I was in China was people were saying if you're older than 30 as a woman, then your worth will be lower and you can't find a quality husband. Something like that.
Wow.
I'm sorry you all experienced that. That all sounds really hard.
And I think, Bae, what you were saying really applies a lot to, to culture around the world in general, but also we see it a lot in like music and entertainment, where women specifically, but also men, especially in sports, your career ends at 28, 32, 35, and then you're just kind of tossed out because that is considered old for the work that you do.
Yeah, I love that you brought up sports. I'm remembering 2 years ago when we watched the Winter Olympics, and I'm not gonna recall the names, but there was a skier, like a cross track skier, I think it was, who was old, right? At I think like 30 or 35 or something. And that's every time he skied, that's all they talked about. Like, it was the only interesting thing that they had to say about this person, is that he wasn't 17 or 19 or 22. Yeah. And he won like all his races.
Yeah, or like the conversation that was happening around Tom Brady for years about like, oh, when's he gonna retire? He's getting too old for this. It's not like he was performing any differently. He was just expected to retire because of his age.
Yeah.
I have several close friends and family members who are either currently pregnant or have been very recently in their late 30s, and it being labeled geriatric, which we've all been.
Geriatric.
Yes. I had never heard that term, geriatric pregnancy. I think of any woman over 35, I think is the cutoff,
35.
which is, and I've know like 3 or 4 women who have fallen into that in the past year, and there have been some laughs around that, but yeah, that's kind of odd.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think. Sorry,
Go ahead, keep going. No, go.
Unfortunately, that is just a reality for women looking to get pregnant as they get older. I'm 31. I am maybe gonna have kids, maybe not. But if I even talk to someone about that, they're like, "Oh, you need to do that soon because you're gonna get old." And it's like, I'm 31. I'm not not old. But the idea is, even though with technological advances that we have, the idea and the cultural stigma is still that pregnancy is for young women.
Yeah, these are good points.
Even then, 38 is still pretty young.
Yeah. Same thing. So other ways that ageism shows up in our medical system, right? All right. Next question. We internalize stereotypes about aging, and we may stop ourselves from doing something we're capable of doing or trying something new. If anyone has a story to share of a time that you might have stopped yourself, right, or told yourself a story about what you were capable of doing, or maybe you know of a friend or a family member, we'd love to hear a story.
It's not a good story, but I just turned 40, and I have gotten kind of a late career switch into data science, and I don't have a degree in it. I'm pretty much self-taught, and I've been toying with maybe I need to go get whether I'd like to get an advanced degree in something like data science. And I have been telling myself that at 40 I'm just too old for that. Like, is it really a practical decision at this point, which of course is just silly, but it is something that, yeah, I have already internalized that.
Mm.
As far as career changes, one thing I like to keep in mind is that Martha Stewart didn't start her empire until she was in her 40s.
There you go.
Yeah, she didn't do
You're
it.
still young, Tim.
And
You're still young.
Stan Lee didn't create Spider-Man until he was 40, so there you go.
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a family member, my stepmom. She has, starting this summer, she had really incredible back pain, and she went to the doctor, got a second opinion. Everyone was, oh, you're starting to get into your 60s. Your back's gonna hurt more. We think that these are just some contracting muscles. It took her 6 months to even get approved to get a CAT scan. And it turns out that she has like fractures in two of her like spinal whatevers. So like just because she's getting
Wow.
older, it was completely dismissed as your body is getting older, where she truly needed medical help, and the delay could have really impacted her recovery.
Yeah. I'm glad she's getting the care she needs. All right, so I have a video that I'd like us to watch, and hopefully, oops, I don't know. Let me try this. Am I still sharing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
So you'll probably have to do a control click.
Yeah, that's not working though.
Interesting.
I know. Let me just try popping it into a new.
Going to be a mother for the first time.
42.
71. I'm 74.
I'm ready.
Okay, so we're just going to talk. You're going to show me stuff. Do I need my glasses? I'm going to show you some slides, and I'd like you to fill in the blank and put the words "for her age" at the end of the sentence. All right.
She has flawless skin for her age.
Beautiful for her age.